Hi, and welcome to Real Talks Live, your weekly lunchtime live, where I will be aiming to break silences, shatter glass ceilings, and challenge social norms. I'm Martha DaCosta Sherwood, your transformational empowerment coach. So today I am talking about positive thinking versus toxic positivity. So, positive thinking is all the rage at the moment, and rightly so, because it has lots and lots of benefits. And I'm going to put it out there that I am pro positive thinking. So, when we're going to be talking about these things. So, what does that mean? So, what is positive thinking? So, positive thinking is all about having an attitude that looks for the good in any situation and knows that in the end, everything's going to be okay. So, it's about being optimistic. However, some people have taken an overgeneralized approach to positive thinking, and we've now turned this into something that's a little bit more toxic. And that's where toxic positivity comes in. So, toxic positivity is this idea that no matter how bad something is, no matter how dire or difficult a situation is, you should still maintain a positive mindset. And it's kind of this kind of, good vibes only type chill. And there are benefits, like we've identified, in being optimistic, but toxic positivity takes this a step further. And it doesn't just focus on being optimistic. It kind of it minimizes and rejects any form of human emotions that are negative. So if there's not happy-go-lucky, we ignore it in favor of something that's often quite false. Now, this is where the problem comes in, where there's this disconnect between positive thinking and where it becomes toxic positivity. And this is because reality is life isn't always positive, right? So we all go through painful emotions and negative experiences, and those are valid, they're real. And even though they're unpleasant, we need to experience them and go through them. They shouldn't be shrugged off as though it's not happening or brushed under the carpet as though they're insignificant, because they are. So, how did we end up into this place where we now have toxic positivity? Well, the truth is that toxic positivity often comes from well-intended people. Okay, so they are genuinely wanting to be sympathetic, wanting the best for you. However, it's still important that we note it that even though they're well-intended, toxic positivity is still dangerous. And so, where do we see this, particularly in the workplace? Now, if you have come across any of these, or maybe you have even been guilty yourself, this is where you'll see toxic positivity. So, things such as when people say, just stay positive, look on the bright side of life, when, particularly at work, when you're unfulfilled, you're not happy, you're not feeling quite well. And that those comments come from a place where someone's trying to be sympathetic and even trying to lift you up. But the truth is, if you're feeling those feelings, that prevents you from expressing them. That's how it becomes toxic. Another big one you might have heard or even been guilty of is everything happens for a reason. Now, I'm pro everything happens for a reason. I believe in that and I try and have an understanding of it. But in that moment, after you've experienced a loss, it doesn't take away from that loss feeling. Okay. So if you didn't get that promotion, someone saying to you, oh, everything happens for a reason, isn't necessarily going to make you feel positive. Okay. Is it? That is not allowing you to experience the loss in that time and go through that feeling and then move on. So that's something that happens there. And a big one And again, this is about how we present these things, because I'm about choice. I definitely believe that our life in a direction, the choices are in our hands. We can't control everything, but choices are in our hands about how we respond. So when you are feeling a little bit unhappy and someone says to you, happiness is a choice, that's almost as though what they're saying is, if you are feeling unhappy, you are choosing to go through that feeling. Now, I'm quite sure that we've come across and we've heard all of those forms of positivity at some point or another. And I doubt any of the people that said it to us were coming from a place of harm, okay, or any sort of disaligned intention. I don't think that is the case. But as we said, just because you mean well doesn't necessarily mean you always does well. And this is harmful for a number of reasons, okay? Because people genuinely go through difficulties in life. And it doesn't have to be the big stuff. Okay. You don't have to go through the big stuff. We go through a range of emotions every single day. And all of those emotions are valid. In the same way, we get to express and share, okay, and even let go of positive stuff. We need to be able to do the same with the things that are not as nice. And if we can't, it prevents and it stops people who are genuinely going through something, making their feeling heard and being able to share that and getting unconditional support. So instead, you feel dismissed. You might even feel ignored or even invalidated. And that's harmful because, as I said, it prevents us from going through the full range of authentic human experiences. Right? There is no one without the other. Okay, so there is no good without bad. Okay, when you go through something and you realize, you think the happiest point in your life, you're also able to identify the part when you wasn't as happy. When you feel really good, you know what good is because you know what bad is. You know what light is because you know what dark is. And so toxic positivity kind of prevents us from experiencing the full range. And that goes on to be harmful to the people who are going through this, because people then feel ashamed of expressing something so natural and normal as a negative emotion. You feel ashamed of that. You feel guilty, as though somehow, because you have a negative emotion, you're to blame for it and you've done something wrong. Doesn't make sense. And ultimately, it prevents us having the opportunity to grow. Because as I have said many of times, growth happens outside of our comfort zone. And if we never get the opportunity to sit in and experience and face head on the negative emotions, then how do you build resilience? How do you learn to overcome things? How do you build persistence? Okay, so it prevents our ability to grow and develop as individuals if we don't get the opportunity to experience those emotions as well. And because, like I said, the truth of it is life is not a bed of roses. It really isn't. And it's okay to say, do you know what? How are you? I'm not okay. Life sucks at the moment in time, because it probably does suck. You've been working really, really, really hard and you didn't get a promotion. That sucks. Okay. You finally landed your dream job and it's not as the dream that you expected it to be. That sucks. All of these are real things that you're allowed to feel. And you need to acknowledge those feelings, feel them in order to move past them. Bottling them up doesn't make them go away. They will eventually come out. And that's the reason why it's so important not to get caught up in toxic positivity. Now, we can be optimistic. You can feel that in that moment, right? Life doesn't suck forever because you didn't get a promotion. It's not the end of the world that you actually don't like this career that you thought was for you. But those feelings in that time, in that moment, are valid, they're real, and you can feel them. The positivity side is supposed to come with that and say, Well, what am I going to do about that? Okay, well, how am I going to improve that? Because I'm optimistic and I know that I'm in control and I can get to a better place. That's when our positivity is supposed to come in. So, how do you make sure you don't fall foul to this? Because it's very easy, as I said, because the idea is no one likes anyone being sad. We don't want anyone to be in that space where they feel unhappy or sad or negative. And so our natural reaction is try to get people out of that space as quickly as possible. We try to move them straight away. That's what we're trying to do. But you can't do that. So if you see yourself brushing things off rather than facing them, that's a problem. If you find that you have a negative feeling and there's any sort of shame or guilt around that, that's because there's some toxic positivity thoughts. If you are hiding your true feelings, hiding them because you don't want to share negative feelings because you're worried about what anybody else is going to say, then again, not acceptable. If you yourself, because sometimes we feel uncomfortable dealing with people, we feel uncomfortable with experiencing other people's negative emotions, and therefore we minimize them. That's toxic. Okay? Because sometimes we need to feel uncomfortable. So if you see yourself doing any of those things, any of those processes, stop yourself. If you catch anybody else telling you that, stop them too. Because like I said, they may not be aware. Stop them too. And then how do you deal with these life experiences and have positive thinking that doesn't turn into toxic positivity? Well, first and foremost, as we've identified, you need to manage those negative emotions. You need to face them. Don't deny them, right? Because if they go unchecked, they don't go away. They build up, right? You build it up. But also, our emotions in general, they are telling us something. It's information. Yeah, right? If you are sad, it means something's not right. There's something that you need to change and develop and improve on. So it's telling us something that we need to fix so you can feel them. So first and foremost, you need to definitely make sure that you face those emotions. Don't ignore them. Be realistic about your feelings. Do not get into any sort of mind frame where you beat yourself up about having any forms of negative feelings. It is okay to have a negative feeling. How you respond to them, there might be problems, okay? But if you're feeling sad, angry, frustrated, you're in grief, all of those feelings are okay. And it's okay for you to have them. And it's okay for you to share with other people and say, I have them, without guilt, without shame, without judgment. That's okay. Responding negatively as a result of those is problematic, but having those is fine. Just do not stay with those negative emotions for too long. So you don't dwell in them where it's as though it's forever, because it's not. It's just a period of time. So you experience it, you acknowledge it, you use it, you identify what's going on around you that has caused that emotion and feeling, because that's what you're going to need to take action on. And then you can move on. Okay? So, because all of our emotions make us a whole. Because I can tell you for free, I know we've all had that experience. Okay? So I've got a sweet tooth. Now, no matter how much I have a sweet tooth, I need a bit of variety, right? And after a while, if all I was having is sugar, I'm not going to be able to get the same high from that sugar. You're going to need something a little bit, a little bit less. And some of my greatest achievements and accomplishments have come off the back of some form of adversity, because in that low, in that time when you're feeling it, you really check yourself and you know that's telling you something's uncomfortable and that you need to do something. And so you move outside of that. So remember, everything isn't always okay. And that's okay. As long as you remember that's not permanent and it will be okay in the future. So thank you and do enjoy the rest of your afternoon.